And tonight on the Daily Wrap, Donald Trump goes after Wall Street. Socialist Bernie Sanders tries to woo evangelical Christians. All this while Vice President Joe Biden still contemplates a possible presidential run. Plus, more emails for Hillary Clinton. This isn't a recording. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Joe Concha, joined by my co-host Rick Unger.
Hey, I think it's Monday.
It is, and you had a cold over the weekend, yet you're here.
It happens. Oh, I'm always here.
What are we talking about?
Home, baby. I don't know, I'm starting to get jazzed for the debates on Wednesday. I'm getting into it.
Do you think the audience will be bigger than the Fox audience of 24 million? Because the sequel tends to do better than the original, even if the sequel isn't as good as the original?
Good question. My prediction is no. It will not be as big. It'll be a sizable debate audience because everybody's going to be tuning in to see if anybody's going to fire back at Trump.
Right.
But I don't know if you'll ever see a debate top that number.
Probably not. The curiosity factor might be away a little bit, but Carly Fiorina is going to bring a whole new element to that as far as who attacks Trump. She'll be leading the charge, no question. Two, Mr. Unger's right. She is Nomi Konst. You know what she does. She's the executive director of the Accountability Project. And finally, to her right, he's assistant online editor for Commentary Magazine, the Roa Rothman, everybody. That's the one.
The Roa couldn't be here, unfortunately. But I will definitely be trying to.
Good to hear. Wearing a Trump tie, by the way, which we want to want to talk about. Double wins or not?
Make America Great Again inside.
It's gorgeous. It has a really gaudy, stenciled, like what do you call it? A family crest on the inside of the tie. It's lovely.
We'll be showing that later in the show. In the meantime, let's get right to the Daily Download.
All right, we've got a big interview with Jimmy Fallon coming up. But let's be honest, Fallon's a lightweight. No way he deserves to interview me. The only one qualified to interview me is me.
Me interviewing me, that's what I call a great idea.
Of course it's a great idea. We thought of it.
Donald Trump having some fun on The Tonight Show Friday when he interviewed himself with Jimmy Fallon. The Donald should be in a good mood. Boy, no, we really like that. He continues to rise in the polls, and now he seems to be getting some respect from other prominent Republicans. Senators McCain, Grassley, Portman, Alexander, and Sessions have all said they would support Trump if nominated. Okay, Rick, are these members of the Senate finally coming around and realizing that Trump could actually be the GOP nominee for 2016?
You know, I think we're definitely at a point now where anybody who sticks with the "it can't happen, it's ridiculous," those days are over. I think at this point, if you don't take it seriously, you do so at your own peril, and that includes elected officials. It's real. It very much could happen.
Nomi, what trips up Trump, if anything, at this point? Because clearly, all right, if he attacks women, we'll call it Megyn Kelly, Carly Fiorina. If he attacks veterans like John McCain, all of these things that were supposed to derail this entire nomination, road to the nomination, hasn't happened. So what stops him at this point?
The Club for Growth. When the Club for Growth, this organization that's supporting the wealthy Americans of the Republican Party and special tax structures, if they go after him hard, I think that's and they're going to, and they've made a statement saying that they're going to release videos criticizing him. I think that's when you're going to have a split in the party among those senators. Now, I think it's in the interest of a McCain, even though he insulted McCain for his record in the military. It is within McCain's world to challenge the Club for Growth. So that's like within his, he was a former campaign finance.
So the goal is to paint him as a moderate, basically.
Not even a moderate. I think that they're going to go out and call him a socialist. I think they're going to go hard and say this is not a real conservative. This is somebody who doesn't stand for our values.
Wouldn't that be interesting, Noah, that if he got the nomination and Club for Growth is calling him a socialist and Bernie Sanders got the nomination, you have two socialists vying for the presidency?
Yeah, then we could really just all get on boats and jump over to Europe and really have the whole thing unalloyed.
To socialist Europe?
Yes. This is true.
Self-deportation.
I'm going to push back a little bit on this report that says Republicans are jumping behind the Donald Trump bandwagon. They're asked if they're going to give him the support, and if you read their quotes, it's very meek, tepid. I'm going to support the nominee. Not necessarily Donald Trump. They never say his name, and for a reason. They don't think he's going to be the nominee. Right. You're right. The firewall is if we really get down to the wire and we're in delegate territory and he's winning races, then you hit the SEC primary, you hit March, you hit April, and you hit big delegate numbers in states like California, New York, New Jersey, where you throw money into those big media markets that Donald Trump will try to match. But they anticipate that the party can get behind somebody who's going to be a more establishmentarian figure and really head him off at the convention with a bunch of big delegate numbers in these states.
And to that end, I'm glad you brought that up, because something that nobody's talking about, while Donald Trump's out there getting all the juice, Jeb Bush has been very busy behind the scenes lining up superdelegates.
Right.
So let's not forget about that.
So even though he's dropped to, say, I saw one poll, I think it was CBS, 6%.
Yeah.
Jeb Bush has dropped to. Why would a superdelegate? Why would even anybody be backing this horse at this point?
Lots of loyalty, A, to the Bush family, and B, I think that the establishment still thinks that Jeb Bush ends up with the nomination.
Really?
Yeah.
Not
But
a
a year
John
from
Kasich,
now-
who might be the better candidate of the two.
Well,
I'm not saying that from a biased
that's
perspective.
and that's
Kasich's performed
subjective.
better.
It's, you know, that he may be the better candidate to you. I like him better, but that doesn't mean the establishment sees it that
Right,
way.
because of the name and obviously
But
dad
a year
was
from
president,
now, that
brother
could
was
turn.
president.
You know, Hillary supporters, they're saying the same thing, that they've got the super delegates lined
Which
up.
they do,
Guess
15%.
What? Sure, but in August, if she's down to 5%,
They'll
and
leave.
they'll leave, exactly.
Noah?
Yeah, I suspect that's right. If Hillary Clinton, say, loses Iowa and loses New Hampshire, her firewall in the South won't be worth anything. It'll dissolve.
I don't agree with that.
It'll dissolve, and they will go to the bullpen.
I don't agree with that.
I think that's not. Well, let's argue about it.
She's up 20 points, Brick, before you jump in. She's up 20 points in South Carolina
South
right now. And
Carolina.
now, that all of that said, she was up 20, 30 points
No, I
in
understand.
Iowa and New
I was
Hampshire,
going
and
to
that's
say,
gone.
add South Carolina to that list that you just did, then I will agree with
Well,
you.
that's why Joe Biden is positioning himself as the break glass candidate and positioning himself as the South Carolina candidate.
But see, she can lose. She can lose Iowa. She can lose New Hampshire, although I don't think she will lose New Hampshire. And
New
I
Hampshire?
actually, well, I'm
She's
sorry.
down 22 points.
I
New
take
Hampshire.
it back. I don't think she'll lose Iowa because her ground game is so much better.
Down 10
than,
points.
Then, yeah, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Continuing to
It's a
drop them.
caucus. It's a caucus, and she's got the ground troops. She could lose New Hampshire, but I think she'd have to lose South Carolina for that scenario to
Okay.
unfold.
Well, if we recall, she did finish third in 2008 behind John Edwards, if we
did.
forget that, right?
Well, it was
So-
his state.
She's got a
So-
much better ground group now.
North Carolina.
No,
Just
in
kidding.
North Carolina, right.
Just kidding. I know my Carolinas.
On Face the
been a
Nation,
while.
Donald Trump surprised some when he went after Wall Street.
Who else is getting away, do you think, with murder in this economy?
Well, I just use that as the ultimate example because I know these guys. They're all supporting Jeb Bush for the most part and Hillary Clinton. And, it's funny when I hear them talking about, oh, we've got to stop this and that. They don't mean it because they're totally controlled by Hillary, and Jeb in particular are totally controlled by the hedge fund guys and, the Wall Street guys, but hedge funds in particular. So they pay very little tax, and that's going to end when I come out with my plan in about 3 weeks. Could be sooner than that.
Okay, now Trump specifically calls out Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton with their connections to hedge funds and Wall Street in general. Is it kind of, I don't know, surprising that a Republican GOP, the guy who's the front runner right now, I'll get this question out, I swear, is actually saying we should tax the rich more and hedge funds and Wall Street needs to be reined in?
It's remarkable. The extent to which Donald Trump has been able to divorce himself from his past and even present associations in the minds of the 33, who knows how much percent he's going to ultimately secure the Republican
He's
base.
at 40 in the CBS poll.
It's just absolutely remarkable. It's untethered to reality. I have no idea why this is happening. I suspect anybody who says they do don't. So it reflects the extent to which there's just a very limited attachment to principle among a certain segment of the Republican base, the voting base, the activist base, that really wants to see their own version of Barack Obama take the reins and be a strongman personality.
But nobody cares when it comes to Donald Trump what he's done in the past. Geez, he was a Democrat in the past. They don't care about that. I think this was a smart move. He is trying to run as a populist and have his cake and eat it too, and he gets away with it.
And he's distancing himself from those cultural issues. If you've noticed in the past, week or so, since he signed that RNC pledge, he has been softer on immigration. He's even basically made the case
You mean
for
as far as
comprehensive
taking in migrants?
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. No, but immigration immigration reform. He's actually made the case for comprehensive immigration reform and then kept the wall, because you got to say the wall.
And the numbers just keep going up and up and up. So do you believe Trump is going to fix Wall Street? Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments and let us know. Maybe we'll even read some of them on the air. We always do. So we're going to give you a preview of the second GOP debate. That's what Rick was talking about, and that's next. Stay tuned.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
That, of course, was the now infamous interaction between Fox News anchor Megyn Kelly and Republican frontrunner Donald Trump during the first GOP debate last August. Now, at the time of the first debate, Trump had a shaky hold on first place in most of the polls. But now, as we head into Wednesday's debate at the Reagan Library in Southern California, Trump holds an increasingly powerful grip on that lead, and that means pretty much everyone will be gunning for the Donald. Presidential hopeful Carly Fiorina punched back at Trump after he made disparaging remarks about her face in Rolling Stone.
And now, Carly, do you accept Mr. Trump's explanation specifically that he wasn't talking about your face when he said face, he was talking about your persona?
No, but I do accept his comments that he was speaking as an entertainer. And, you know, when I was in third grade, Eric, there was a little boy that really liked me, and he said mean things about me and, you know, pulled my pigtails all the time. And my husband and I have been together for over 30 years, but I think I know when someone's flirting with me.
And with Ben Carson now in second place in the national polls, the doctor may be prescribing a more spirited approach to this week's debate than what he had offered up in the first.
I just happen to believe that people are not stupid. And the way I will come at it is to educate people, help people to actually understand that is that progressive movement that is causing them the problems. You know, you look at the national debt and how it's being driven up. If I was trying to destroy this country, what I would do is find a way to drive wedges between all the people, drive the debt to an unsustainable level, and then step off the stage as a world leader and let our enemies increase while we decreased our capacity as a military person, and that's what she's doing.
All right, so who has the most to gain and who has the most to lose in the upcoming clash of the Republicans? And what are the odds that this debate will get more into substance rather than personality? Joe Concha.
Ben Carson has the most to gain because he is the one who is gaining the most on Donald Trump right now. We see the polls where Ben Carson is a very solid second.
Right.
And even in head-to-head matchups against Hillary Clinton, Ben Carson beats Hillary by 15 points, while Trump is only even with her.
Right.
So I think Ben Carson is the one with the most momentum right now and therefore has the most to gain.
All right, Nomi, let's focus on Ben Carson because I think Joe makes a good argument for that. Can a guy who is... despite what Donald Trump says, one of the great surgeons in our nation.
Sure.
Is he going to have the skills to really deliver in an important debate when it comes to substance?
I think he's very smart in terms of being a neurosurgeon, and I actually think he's witty. We saw his ability. I think that he peaked in the first debate when he started to use his humor. You could see how he separated himself from
that was just at the end.
That was
one line.
Just at the end, one line. But in terms of substance, he's been in several long interviews at this point, and he does not have a command of issues. Neither does Trump, to be fair. But I think actually Trump might know a little bit more than he's leading on. He's playing that. Ben Carson really doesn't have, from how our government is structured, just basic points about how the government is structured, to how tax policy works, to foreign policy, to how much that he was misquoted. He misquoted our military spending a few weeks ago in an interview. So,
yeah,
this is somebody, you're running for president.
Noah,
get a piece of paper with all of your information, put it in front of you during an interview, and read off of it.
Noah, do you think, A, do you think we'll get more substance, first of all, and B, who do you think can come out of this the big winner?
No, I would love to say more substance would be, remarkable, and that has been the big hit against Ben Carson. Is he's not a policy wonk. He doesn't have command of the issues, particularly when it comes to government. But that's been the big plus of this whole cycle, is that nobody wants to hear about substance. Not on the Republican side. They want to hear
at some point,
gravitas, bravado.
That's how it is every year.
Yeah, I'm not sure when we do get there. As for who can emerge from this thing, there's going to be a lot of eyes on Carly Fiorina. I think she probably has the most to lose, mostly, even though she doesn't really perform very well in the polls. She's got a high expectation level, and everybody's going to be watching her for something.
And speaking of Carly Fiorina, as a result of a different system being employed for determining who'd be able to participate in what we're calling the grown-ups debate, Carly Fiorina managed to make it to the big stage for this week's clash. Given her impressive performance at the kids' table debate in August, can we expect her to score big on Wednesday? We know what Noah thinks. Nomi, what do you think?
I think she's very quick. She's incredibly sharp, quick-witted, and what she's doing right now with Trump, she's been able to tackle Trump without taking him head-on. It's almost like a martial arts. She uses his energy against him. Very smart.
Rick, she has run the best campaign of all 23 people in this race, by far. Every interview is impressive. She is crisp. She knows policy, that's for sure. And she can even answer the HP question flawlessly.
The answer is Carly Fiorina wins Wednesday night's debate. Now, anyone remember Governors Jeb Bush and Scott Walker, once perceived as the top two contenders for their party's nomination? Each is now down significantly in the polls. Can either of these men do anything on Wednesday to reignite their campaigns? Quickly, Joe.
Absolutely not. Walker is in a free fall, and I don't see how he turns it around because he isn't an energy guy. He's not the type of guy who could come from behind because he doesn't have the personality, or really, he doesn't resonate with people the way we thought he would.
Noah Rothman.
Jeb Bush can glide. He's got the money behind him. Scott Walker needs to win the Koch primary, and he's losing it.
Unlike the rest of the candidates, Scott Walker does not have the personality of the moment, and he's not ready for prime time.
I told you Scott Walker was a loser right from the first day, and he's proving
not a
this.
loser. He won 3 elections in a blue state.
He's a loser. He doesn't belong in this race. Now we know you will be watching the clash of the GOP contenders on Wednesday night, and we want to invite you to join us right here on Newsmax TV. We'll be hosting a post-debate special featuring Ed Berliner, J.D. Hayworth, Steve Malzberg, and yours truly, Wednesday evening starting at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Newsmax TV. Ben Carson and Mike Reagan will be joining the broadcast while Dick Morris and John Zogby provide expert analysis. And you can have your voice heard too. Go to newsmax.com/judge and register for our instant poll where you get to choose the winner. Sign up right now at newsmax.com/judge, and we will see you in just a moment.
Are you sorry? Do you want to apologize to the American people for the choice you made?
Well, it wasn't the best choice. The people in the government knew that I was using a personal account, but it would have been better if I'd had 2 separate accounts to begin with. And certainly I'm doing all I can now to try to be as transparent about what I did have on my work-related emails.
Remember that number 2. Well, the former Secretary of State might not have been as transparent as she says, if the latest reports are any indication. Today, governmental watchdog group, they're called Judicial Watch, announced it has discovered under a Freedom of Information Act request that 5 months of emails from Clinton's private servers are missing. The missing emails begin, coincidentally enough, when she became Secretary of State in 2009. According to said Judicial Watch, quote, the gap in emails received by Clinton run from January 21st, 2009, when she became Secretary of State, to March 17, 2009. The gaps in emails sent by Clinton from January 21st to April 12th of that year, that's 2009, and from December 30th to February 1st, 2013. Big gap. So let's talk about this, everybody, shall we?
The State Department has a response, which we just got off the wire. Spokesman Alex Gerlich had this to say: there is no gap in Secretary Clinton's sent messages from the December 2012 through the end of January 2013. Upon review, the department has has many messages sent by Secretary Clinton during that period, including messages that appear to have been produced directly from her sent mailbox. Future document releases will include emails from this time period. Also, that she didn't use this email in early 2009 has been previously acknowledged, confirmed. Let me make that make a little bit of sense. The first couple of months when she was the Secretary of State, she was using a private email server. I think it was private, but she stopped using it, and she has explained to the court previously that she does not have access to that. We can all question why that's the case, why she wouldn't have access. I don't know the answer. What the State Department is saying with respect to these other suggested gaps, no, there aren't gaps, and in fact, they will be turning over a number of those emails in future dumps that have been ordered by the court. So that's the State Department.
So how does this resonate at home with people?
Well, that's one question. The other, just to respond to Rick briefly, we have to remember that they're releasing these in batches.
Yeah.
They're not done. They're nowhere near done right now. So this is, I think, you know, I would question Judicial Watch's report on this. I think they're eager. We've had a little bit of a low Hillary news past couple of days.
It has been 48 hours, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's serious. It's like every day there's a new thing that they have to report. You don't have to fabricate stuff. There's enough stuff here. You don't have to come up with a story every day to take down Hillary in the polls.
Rick and I noticed this, that the only people reporting this are right-wing websites for the most part, and mainstream media didn't pick it up. Now people at home are saying, because the mainstream media is liberal, and that's why they didn't do it. No, no, no. There's something about this that had all the major news organizations like the New York Times and Washington Post, which, by the way, have reported on Hillary Clinton's email.
The story. You know, the New York Times, let's not forget, liberal New York Times broke this story.
Right, there's a special place in hell for them, according to David Brock of Media Matters. I guess the bottom line is, when getting back to the original question, but just when people hear this, whether it's true or not, this is the main reason, right? While she's gone now down 22 points in New Hampshire, 10 points in Iowa. I know that it's a caucus, and therefore she could still win that state, but boy, I don't see how she reverses it. I just don't. Do you?
I say we have to really start to worry when she loses the African-American vote. She's losing white women. That's not totally unusual. I mean, she lost white women in...
It's a pretty big deal.
It's a big deal, but she lost it to Barack Obama, and you know, she does not have a great reputation with white women. It's the African Americans. If she loses them, Joe Biden's in.
Okay, you wanted to make a point.
Actually, the only point that I wanted to quickly make, is I think our guest is joining us, Tom Fitton, is that I think in a lot of ways Hillary's been lucky that she's had this scandal. You know why? Because I think there's a bigger scandal out there that's been deflected, and that is the entire thing about doing favors for people who made big contributions to the Clinton Foundation.
Wow.
Like Algeria.
Boy,
you know?
With luck like that. I mean, let's bring in Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, to get more on this story. Okay, Tom, you've heard the, Rick just read it, the response from the Justice Department, your response to their response, State Department, excuse me.
I didn't hear what their response was. Just tell me in 2 words what it was.
Can't do it in 2 words. Basically, they're saying there's more emails coming out in future document dumps that will include a number of the emails that you say are missing, and that the first that December through January thing, when she first began her term, she was using yet a different email account that she has already said is unavailable.
They say there's no
to
gap,
her.
basically, Tom.
So they're saying there's no gap.
They're saying they may have other emails, but they don't say they have all the emails. This is the problem. The administration has been playing...
Go ahead, Tom.
The administration... One more time?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the administration has been playing fast and loose with the facts about the Clinton email scandal. The fact is we had to sue to get these records, and they show an email gap. Now they're telling us at some unclosed future time they're going to turn over the emails that they found in April where they didn't have enough emails.
Tom, we'll need to
records about.
Stick around through the commercial. There's some technical difficulties. We do want to give you full time here. So more Tom Fitton after the break. We talk about the Clinton emails. This is the Daily Wrap. Welcome back to Daily Wrap. That was Rick. This is me. How are you? Today, as we mentioned before, governmental watchdog group Judicial Watch announced it has discovered under a Freedom of Information Act that there were 5 months of emails from Hillary Clinton's private servers that were missing. The missing emails begin when she became Secretary of State in 2009. Let's bring back Tom Fitton. He is the president of Judicial Watch. So, Tim, there you are, joining us live from Virginia. Tom, excuse me. So, tell us your response again to the State Department, they say that there was no gap. You say there is a gap. Who's right, who's wrong, and why?
Well, these documents show there is a gap, and they're saying we promise there may be emails, based on what you're telling me, I haven't seen their exact statement, that show in the future that there is no gap. We'll believe it when we see it. In the meantime, this analysis shows there was a gap. They didn't disclose any of this to the American people. This was in April of this year, well after the New York Times report emerged, long after they had received the emails, and now they're telling us there's nothing to worry about. Well, why didn't they disclose this to us back in April? Why didn't they tell the courts about it back in April? And now we're expected to give them the benefit of the doubt. This is an agency, and Mrs. Clinton, who has obstructed criminal investigations, obstructed congressional investigations, and obstructed our court cases, and this is more evidence of that.
Tom, it's Rick Unger. I just want to point out that you're questioning why didn't they tell the court about that back in April will be relevant if, in fact, there is this gap. They claim that there isn't. If there is no such gap, then they would have had no obligation to say anything beyond what they did. But here's what I want to ask you. In the last block, you referenced that the Obama administration has been playing fast and loose with this investigation. What evidence are you basing that on?
They let Mrs. Clinton steal all those records. They knew she had these records. They told courts they searched her system. They searched the Executive Secretariat in response to our Freedom of Information Act requests, and they knew she had this separate system.
Tom, I got to interrupt you because I assume you're...
I'm going to let you interrupt me. I'm going to answer your question. They didn't search these records, and they lied to us and to the courts that they did search records, and they didn't. And they didn't tell us about it until they were forced to. They didn't disclose any of these records voluntarily. They opposed to disclosing these records as quickly as they've had to. They played games with us. They've tried to stop the court proceedings from happening. They've asked for delays. So the facts are that this is not only a Clinton scandal, but an Obama administration scandal.
Well, Tom, once you said the word steal, it was kind of hard for me to hear the rest. I'm guessing you're an attorney because you're the president of Judicial Watch.
No, I am not an attorney.
Okay, well, I suspect your attorneys would probably tell you that you may not want to accuse her of stealing something unless she intentionally stole something that wasn't hers. Are you alleging that that's what she did?
Thank you for your legal advice, but of course she stole those records. She didn't have any right to those records. Those are federal records. No one is allowed to take them, and she took them. This is a government system, and she took them.
In what way?
They're federal records that she had no right to have, and the fact is everyone else who would have done this, in fact, the agent would have been hauled into court, especially given the classified nature of the documents she purloined.
Well, I don't want to get into a legal battle with you over this. I want to give other people a chance to ask you questions, but I think you'll find that the records that she came into possession of, you may feel that she should have gotten them in different ways and should have turned them over, but that doesn't constitute theft under either federal or state laws. So I'm just...
You got an investigation into this?
Excuse me?
Do you know the records and how she got them? Of course you don't. All I'm going on is what the public record is and what the law is and what the regulations are.
And that equals stealing.
It's the alias government system to conduct government business. And that system was mismanaged and improperly run during her tenure, and she just took it in contrary to law. And now she's withholding records from the courts and Congress and the Justice Department and FBI, and we're trying to figure out where the rest of these records are.
Tom, what do you think of the Department of Justice last week, at least the lawyers for the Department of Justice, saying that she was allowed to erase her personal emails? In terms of precedent, isn't that dangerous? Because then we're allowing, let's say a Republican wins the White House next year, or we have a Republican Secretary of State. Doesn't it allow that person just to deem what's personal and what is state business based on what their judgment is? I mean, I just found that remarkable that the DOJ came to that conclusion.
And it isn't what the regulations are. Arguably, if she were in the State Department still and using her, send an email to you all saying, hey, great work, it's let's go out for tea, and it's a truly personal email, maybe she could delete it. But once she left the office and once she wanted to leave, the State Department regulations are everything on that system is subject to government disclosure and retrieval and archival and it being archived and being subject to scrutiny. And you can't take anything without her permission, and that's what she did, and she doesn't have the right to delete anything once she goes. And no other government official will be able to go back into a system like this and figure out what's personal and federal and delete records. The State Department or the Justice Department seems to be acting as frankly an arm of the Clinton campaign as opposed to an agent of public interest.
Tom Fitton, President of Judicial Watch, thanks for staying with us for the commercial. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Well, we want to know who your pick is for the 2016 nomination. Go to newsmaxpolls.com to cast your vote. Up next, lots more. Stay tuned.
I believe in the power of millions of courageous conservatives rising up to reignite the promise of America. And that is why today I am announcing that I'm running for President of the United States.
And that was Senator Ted Cruz announcing his candidacy for president at Liberty University, the evangelical institution founded by Reverend Jerry Falwell. Now, while Liberty has traditionally been a must-stop for every candidate seeking the GOP nomination for president, Democrats have never made the trip to the Lynchburg, Virginia-based university to plead their case to the nation's evangelical community. That is, until today.
And that's what politicians, by and large, do. We go out and we talk to people who agree with us. But it is harder, but not less important, for us to try and communicate with those who do not agree with us on every issue. It is important to see where, if possible, and I do believe it's possible, we can find common grounds.
So for the first time since Reverend Falwell and his moral majority delivered the evangelical vote to Ronald Reagan, the Democrats have come knocking, looking to see if they can now appeal to religious Christians.
You try to understand in this very complicated modern world that we live in what the words of the Bible mean in today's society. You are a school which tries to teach its students how to behave with decency and with honesty, and how you can best relate to your fellow human beings, and I applaud you for trying to achieve those goals.
That obviously didn't make a big hit with everybody there. But with younger evangelicals, those people not included, now showing interest in what have traditionally been Democratic Party positions, is the evangelical vote suddenly in play, Noah Rothman?
No. But
not even the younger ones.
Well, I don't know about the younger ones necessarily. I think Bernie Sanders made a very deft move, and he was astute in doing so by approaching this organization that has otherwise supported conservative candidates because they're in line with their moral values, not necessarily their economic values. An evangelical candidate doesn't necessarily have a position on big government or entitlement spending. They have a position on morality, and that was a cold reception, but it wasn't an ugly reception. When Mitt Romney approached the NAACP in 2012, he was booed. And that was a really ugly moment.
That's true.
Bernie Sanders didn't receive that reception.
And it should be noted that, in that one sequence we just saw, obviously there were members of the audience who were not impressed with his biblical discussion. But I watched the speech, and there were a number of places where he got a surprisingly large round of applause.
So I spoke to someone from the Bernie Sanders campaign who told me, off the record, a little bit more behind the scenes why they made this decision. Now, from my own analysis, what I think he was trying to do two things here. He's looking at polling, and he knows that millennials are voting on economic issues and values issues at the bottom of the list. 2% for abortion, they're voting on abortion issues, 2% on Christian conservative issues, and it's all economics. So he's going in there and he's going to beat every other candidate to that stage and saying, you're all college students, you all care about these other issues. Well, guess what? Economics first as a populist candidate, and then we can come together and have a conversation about these moral issues.
Interesting. Joe, it's not uncommon over the long history of time in this country for voting blocs to switch. We can all remember when the South was heavily Democratic. Today it's heavily Republican. Do you think we're heading into a time where younger evangelicals might be seeing the benefits of what a Bernie Sanders Sanders has to say.
It's very hard to imagine that, right? And just based on the reaction that we saw, the reason why they couldn't boo Bernie Sanders is because they were in a zombie-like state. Those kids, did you see the eyes? Like, whoa, my goodness.
Man.
But to Noah's point,
it wasn't like that through all of it.
No, of course not. And you're right. It was very brave of him to go down there. I think he realized that he has to expand his base. You know, he certainly has the very left wing of the Democratic Party locked up. Now he's got to broaden that, particularly when things go down to South Carolina after he wins, and I say he will win. Iowa, New Hampshire, then South Carolina is next. That's not too far from liberty.
That's going to happen. But in any event, it does seem that in this entire election season, faith keeps becoming a larger element of the discussion. And it almost feels like with every passing election, it becomes a bigger and bigger element. No, you don't agree?
Well, I don't necessarily see it that way. I thought, for example, I'd bring up Mitt Romney again. His faith was very unique from a presidential candidate as a Mormon, but it was sort of a peripheral issue. And everybody made a very important point of not making it a campaign issue. To your other point, though, if we enter into an alternate universe, a through-the-looking-glass world where a socialist loses working-class voters and somehow picks up evangelicals, we really are in a completely different political universe.
You know, we could talk about this a lot longer. I love this topic. Okay. Unfortunately, we don't get to, but we'll do it again soon. Remember, if you want to weigh in on any of the issues we talk about here on the show, be sure to go over to newsmaxtv.com/comments just to let us know what you think. Also, Newsmax is hosting a post-debate special featuring Ed Berliner, J.D. Hayworth, Steve Malzberg, and myself, Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Be sure to be there. We're coming right back.
And welcome back to Daily Wraps. Time for Yay or Nay. First up, can you imagine The Apprentice without Donald Trump? You can, Rick. Well, okay. Can you imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger as his replacement? Well, NBC can. Rick having trouble breathing, get the defibrillator. As they have named the former California governor and mega movie star the new host of Celebrity Apprentice. Trump's catchphrase was simple: you fired. So, what will Schwarzenegger's be? How about instead of you're fired, how about you're terminated? Or you won't be back? Or how about this one?
Hasta la vista, baby.
That's it. That's what it's going to be.
It's going to be hasta la vista. It's got to be, right?
Is that free? Absolutely. Can he say that?
Sure he can.
Yeah?
Which of the 5 Terminators was that set in?
You're asking me?
Yes.
The second?
Correct. Second.
I'm a genius.
That was well done.
I knew that. I knew it was the second.
Judgment Day is the official term, but yeah, that was the best of the 5, no question about it. Do you buy Schwarzenegger? Was this a good decision, I guess is my question.
It surprised me, I'll say that. So it certainly gets publicity for the show because I didn't see it coming. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, look, Arnold, people don't realize that he's been a hugely successful businessman, particularly in real estate.
Okay, so it's not just, plus being a governor, obviously you're a boss, right, of something, of a business in California in essence.
He has done exceedingly well in Santa Monica, California real estate.
I think it's a genius move, actually. And the fact that they could get him away from Hollywood to do TV, I mean, that's
how did he do in his last movie? His
Not
comeback
well.
movie. Maybe that was it.
The Terminator movie, yeah, all of his movies since he left the governorship in California have not done particularly well. So this only kind of makes sense and could possibly put him back on the radar to do big things. But remember, he is in his 60s. It's hard to be an action hero in your 60s. Noah.
I just think I'm the last man in America who's longing for Cincinnatus to return to his plowshares. We have this nexus of actors becoming politicians, becoming actors, becoming politicians again. It really is deleterious, I think, to the state of civil affairs. But I'm going to be the wet blanket on this whole fun.
Yes, you are the mop.
What did he just say?
I'm not quite sure.
There no idea.
I kind of got it.
Big SAT words in there.
It was very meta.
It sounded really smart, but I don't know what he said.
I think he means that it's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, Stephen Colbert completed his first week as new host of The Tonight Show on CBS, and he already has his first controversy. This after deciding it was really a good idea to wear a Black Lives Matter bracelet on the air during his Friday show. You see it there. A fan actually gave it to him, and he decided to wear it and show it off for that matter. Okay, so what do you think about Stephen Colbert supporting one of the more divisive groups in America right now?
Well, from what I've seen in his ratings so far, he has much bigger problems to worry about.
That's true. Jimmy Fallon, night 2, or the debut did great. Night 2, Fallon beat him by 50% in the demo. He lost nearly half of his audience. He's doing pretty well, but I got a feeling that CBS is a little nervous right now. When you do polarizing things like that, that's not how you grow an audience. I know I'm not really asking you a question. I'm lecturing at this point.
No. I totally get it. I mean, he can say what he wants and do what he wants, and he has made a very political show thus far. But let's give him some time. I mean, this Twitter reaction world that we live in, you're 2/4 the way through.
I get it, but isn't that a self-induced error?
Sure, but I don't know if it's going to affect his ratings. I think it gives conservatives one more reason to say, he's liberal, I'm not going to watch him. And
just
Jimmy
based on
Fallon's
principle.
more conservative.
Jimmy Fallon is apolitical. He does not get political on his show, nor does the other Jimmy, Kimmel. Fallon and Kimmel are right. They're very Carson-like, where they decide not to take a stand.
Did Jimmy Kimmel give to Obama?
What's that?
I think Jimmy Kimmel did an Obama fundraiser.
Kimmel's pretty outwardly liberal.
Yeah, I don't really see it that much, but final word.
No, I think, Joe, you made an excellent point. I think this is reflective of some instincts on his part. I don't personally care what his politics are, but a lot of people do. And to be that out with them is just another reason to abandon him if you're not particularly a big fan of his actor performance.
Yeah, I think all that said, and I've criticized Colbert pretty harshly in articles and obviously during this segment, I think he will find a niche in terms of that's where you go for the more serious political interview. The Joe Biden interview was excellent. It was heartfelt,
it was extraordinary.
And a lot more politicians are going there, including Ted Cruz and Mike Huckabee, I believe, this week. So all of that said, he could find that niche. The question is, does that result in ratings? Outside of Trump and Biden, who rates, right? So anyway, that's our show for tonight. Thank you, panel. Outstanding job, outstanding tie. And on behalf of Rick Unger, Naomi Konst, and Noah Rothman, thank you for watching us. The Steve Ballsberg Show. That's next.